Amid long noisy days when your mind is stretched thin by headlines, work, and countless unnamed worries, perhaps what you are missing is not another answer, but a pause. A place distant enough for thoughts to stop colliding, still enough for the heart to hear its own steady rhythm once more. Beyond the stars, the quiet journey to other worlds is not merely a voyage across distant planets. It is a gentle departure from the world's clamor, a slow return to the vast and open space within you. Tonight we will walk together among the stars, from Proxima Centauri to the hidden oceans, beneath Enceladus, to the shadowed regions where light has never yet reached. Yet deeper than all of this, we will touch an ancient question. Each human being has once whispered inwardly, are we alone? And if we are not, what does that mean for this small and fragile life? Let the rhythm of the narration soften. Let the images of the universe unfold like a window opening onto the night. And as Carl Sagan once wrote, we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. As you listen, you may come to realize the journey beyond the stars is also a journey back to yourself. There are nights when the noise of the world finally settles, and you lift your eyes to the sky and realize the light touching your eyes began its journey years ago. A star that has never known you still shines quietly in immeasurable silence. And in the nearest place beyond our sun, 4 light years away, there exists a small world named Proxima Centauri b, 4 light years. The number alone is enough to make the mind pause. With our current technology, such a journey would take tens of thousands of years. The universe does not hurry. It promises nothing easily. And yet, strangely, humanity continues to dream. That dream did not begin with Proxima Centauri b. It began when a human being first left Earth. In 1961, Yuri Gagarin orbited his planet and saw it as a pale blue sphere suspended in darkness. Perhaps in that moment humanity realized for the first time we could step beyond our cradle. Then Apollo touched the moon. Then Voyager crossed the boundary of the solar system, carrying with it recordings of laughter wind and Earth's greeting. Carl Sagan once wrote in pale blue dot, we are like butterflies who flutter for a day and think it is forever. Those words do not make us small, they awaken us. If a human life is only a blink within cosmic history, then every effort to understand becomes infinitely precious. Proxima Centauri b lies within the region where liquid water might exist, the condition we regard as foundational for life. The idea that there could be oceans there, or a sky, or simply conditions not unlike our own Earth, stirs something within the heart, not because we wish to escape Earth, but because we long to know we are not alone. The distance between stars is a vast barrier, yet science does not see it as a wall, but as a question. Ion engines push spacecraft using tiny charged particles, gentle yet persistent. Like a thought, repeated in your mind, soft but enduring enough to alter the trajectory of an entire life. Nuclear pulse propulsion. The idea of using controlled nuclear bursts to propel a craft forward. It sounds violent, yet beneath it lies a longing to transform destructive power into momentum for discovery. Antimatter propulsion matter and antimatter annihilating one another to release immense energy. A paradox cancellation can create motion. Is it not the same within the inner life when we release a fear, an outdated identity? Do we not finally move forward and then break through? Starshot, a light sail propelled by lasers so light it is almost invisible, yet capable of reaching 20% the speed of light. No onboard fuel required, only light. The idea is beautiful as metaphor. Light, unseen yet full of energy, can carry us far. Perhaps in the life of the spirit it is the same. A single insight, a clear awareness can redirect the course of a lifetime. The 4 light years between us and Proxima Centauri b are not only a physical distance, they are the distance between what we know and what we do not know, between fear and courage, between question and answer. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Perhaps humanity's why is curiosity. We want to know what lies beyond the darkness. But tonight, as you listen to this story, interstellar travel is not about technology. It is about the shared heartbeat of humanity across generations. From ancient astronomers gazing at the stars with the naked eye to modern engineers designing antimatter engines, all are moved by the same question. Is the universe listening to us? In the silence of space, the Voyager probes continue to drift. They do not know where they will arrive. Yet they continue. There is something deeply comforting in that image. Not every journey requires a guaranteed destination. Sometimes it is enough to move toward the light. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Look up at the stars and see yourself running with them." When you imagine Proxima Centauri b, when you picture future vessels crossing that immense distance, you are not only thinking about the cosmos, you are thinking about your own capacity. That there are distances in life that seem impossible, grief, doubt, loss, and yet small, steady ion engines of awareness can still move you forward. The universe does not promise ease, but it opens depth. Proxima Centauri may be nothing more than a cold, rocky world. It may have no oceans. It may hold no life, yet the mere fact that we can direct our minds toward it, that we can ask questions about it, is proof that humanity does not simply exist. We yearn. We yearn to understand. We yearn to touch something greater than ourselves. And as you drift toward sleep, let that thought remain like a distant star. Distance does not exist to discourage us. Distance exists to remind us that we live in a vast universe and that we have the capacity to turn toward it. In this quiet night, as your breathing slows, imagine yourself suspended among the stars, unhurried, untroubled, simply part of a movement greater than yourself. Interstellar journeys may take centuries, but the inward journey can begin now, and perhaps somewhere among the stars, it is stillness itself that is the final destination. As we step away from the dream of crossing the distance between stars, another question begins to resonate in the silence. If one day humanity's vessel were to reach Proxima Centauri, would someone there be looking back at us? Between the journey across the stars and that question lies a stillness, the stillness of searching. Humanity does not only want to travel far, we want to know we are not alone. And so for decades, science has learned how to listen. There are two great paths in the search for life beyond Earth. One travels through chemistry, the other through intelligence. The first path is called biosignatures, biological signs. Oxygen in the atmosphere of a distant planet. Methane existing in chemical disequilibrium. Phosphine suspended where it should not persist without biological processes. These tiny molecules are like a faint breath in the dark. No one sees the organisms that create them. But if they exist within the delicate balance of an atmosphere, they may be evidence that something there is alive. Gently, quietly, no civilization required, no language required, only life. The James Webb Space Telescope has become one of humanity's most refined eyes in this journey. It does not search for alien cities. It searches for fragile absorption lines in the spectrum of light, the chemical fingerprints of planetary atmospheres. When starlight passes through the atmosphere of an exoplanet, a small portion is absorbed. Molecules leave their signatures in the spectrum. Webb reads those traces like a piece of music, invisible notes. In a deeper sense, searching for biosignatures is like listening for a distant heartbeat. We do not need to know who is there, only that something living is moving. But humanity does not stop there. We do not only want to know that life exists, we want to know that someone is thinking. And so the second path emerges: technosignatures, signs of civilization, narrow band radio waves with unusual structure, deliberate laser pulses, or even a vast structure encircling a star like the Dyson sphere, once imagined by Freeman Dyson. If biosignatures are breath, technosignatures are voice. The Breakthrough Listen project was born from the desire to hear those whispers. Massive telescopes sweep across the sky, searching for narrow-band signals, sounds that nature would struggle to produce. Millions of frequencies are analyzed. Billions of data points are filtered through algorithms. And so far, the silence continues. Some feel disappointment at that silence. But if you listen more carefully, you may realize the silence of the universe is not an answer. It is an open space. Arthur C. Clarke once wrote in Profiles of the Future, "Two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying." Those words touch something very deep. If we are alone, our responsibility toward life is infinite. If we are not alone, our place in the cosmos is but a speck among countless civilizations. Either possibility leaves us breathless. Yet perhaps the most meaningful reflection does not lie in the outcome. It lies in the act of searching. Why does humanity spend billions of dollars, decades of time, simply to listen for a signal that may never arrive? Perhaps because searching is our nature. In the myth of Sisyphus, Albert Camus wrote, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart." Perhaps the search for extraterrestrial life is like that. Not to win, not to conquer, but to continue climbing the hill of understanding, even as the stone of unanswered questions rolls back each time we believe we are close. The universe may be silent, but the search itself awakens us. When James Webb turns its gaze toward distant exoplanets, when Breakthrough Listen scans the frequencies between stars, what unfolds is not merely science, it is an act of hope. Hope that life is not a singular accident. Hope that consciousness is not a lone flame in the dark. And if the universe remains silent, that silence teaches us something as well. It turns us back toward Earth, toward the blue oceans, the fragile atmosphere, the intricate web of life woven into every breath. Carl Sagan once wrote, "In pale blue dot in our obscurity and all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves." Perhaps that is the gentlest lesson of the silence. If no one else is listening, we must learn to listen to one another. In this quiet night, as you hear of distant radio signals and oxygen molecules on faraway worlds, let a gentle thought drift through you. Perhaps the question, "Are we alone?" is not only a question about the universe, it is a question about the human heart. Are you truly alone in your thoughts? Or are there millions of others also gazing at the sky, wondering the same? The distance between stars may span light years, but the distance between souls can be shortened by a single shared thought. We have not yet found convincing evidence of life beyond Earth, but the scope of our search continues to expand, and in that expansion there is something beautiful, not because we are about to discover the answer, but because we dare to ask. In the silence of the universe, humanity has learned to listen, and perhaps the very act of listening is proof that we are truly alive. Let your breathing slow. Imagine the telescopes patiently turned toward the night sky, unhurried, undespairing, simply searching. In that stillness, you too may find what you are seeking, a sense of connection, even if the answer remains far away among the stars. After we have listened to the silence of the universe, after the radio signals have yet to arrive and the chemical spectra remain uncertain, we return to our own solar system. And there, at the farthest edge of the sun's light, a deep blue planet turns quietly. Neptune. For decades, Neptune has lived in our imagination as a dark blue sphere mysterious, almost surreal. When Voyager 2 flew past in 1989, the first images sent back left the world in awe. A vast blue ocean suspended in cold darkness. But years later, when the data were reanalyzed with more advanced technology, scientists realized that blue was not exactly as we had seen it. Voyager's images had been color enhanced to highlight details. In truth, Neptune's tone is paler, closer to Uranus than we once believed. That truth does not make Neptune less beautiful, but it makes us reflect. How many things in our own lives are like this? How many deep blues we once believed to be truth were simply the way we process the image. Science is not ashamed to correct itself. On the contrary, its ability to self-adjust is part of its beauty. Karl Popper once wrote, "Science must begin with myths and with the criticism of myths." Neptune was once a blue myth, and science, through its humility, dared to look again. When we accept that what we see may not be complete, we step into a new kind of maturity, not cold skepticism, but gentle awakening. Yet Neptune is not only a story about color. Beneath its thin cloud layers rage the most violent storms in the solar system. Winds on Neptune can reach 2,000 kilometers per hour, faster than the speed of sound on Earth. The Great Dark Spot storms, similar to Jupiter's Great Red Spot, appear and vanish like scars upon the planet's surface. From a distance, Neptune seems serene, but within there is turbulence. Is the human mind not similar? We may appear calm, yet deep inside emotional winds still blow. Storms of memory still swirl. Marcus Aurelius reminded us in Meditations, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Neptune cannot control its winds, but we can learn to observe the storms within us without becoming them. Beside Neptune, Triton, its largest moon, orbits in retrograde. This suggests Triton was not born alongside Neptune. It was captured by gravity, a wanderer turned satellite. There is something beautiful and also sorrowful in that idea. Triton once drifted through the darkness of space, then was seized, bound to circle forever around a planet that was not its birthplace. How many times in life do we feel as though we are orbiting something that is not truly ours? Jobs, expectations, roles, sometimes they resemble captured orbits. Yet even in its bound motion, Triton sends plumes of nitrogen gas kilometers high, a sign that within it, activity still lives. Perhaps even when we find ourselves in an orbit we did not choose, we can preserve our inner vitality. Neptune also possesses faint rings, not magnificent like Saturn's, not as distinct as Jupiter's, but they exist. Thin bands of dust and ice, reflecting only the faintest light. They remind us that not all beauty must be radiant. Some things reveal themselves only when we look closely. Albert Einstein once said, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. Neptune is a mystery, and that mystery is not diminished by deeper understanding. It becomes more profound. When the James Webb Space Telescope observes Neptune in infrared, the planet no longer appears blue. It shines bright white, almost luminous. Methane absorbs red and infrared light, transforming its appearance entirely. The same planet, two ways of seeing, two truths depending on the wavelength. And that invites a question: through which wavelength are we seeing our own lives? Perhaps a memory once deeply blue, painful, and haunting may soften in tone when we shift perspective. Perhaps a sorrow that felt eternal is only the product of how we process the light of the past. Science does not deny Neptune's earlier image. It places it in context. It says, that was how we once saw, and now we see more clearly. Philosophy does the same. Soren Kierkegaard wrote, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." Perhaps Neptune teaches a similar lesson. We misunderstand, we adjust, we move forward, not to reach an absolute truth, but to come closer to truth. In this quiet night, as you listen to the story of a blue planet, not entirely blue, let a gentle thought pass through you. Perhaps you are not entirely as you once believed yourself to be. Perhaps there have been color enhancements from memory, from the words of others, from social expectations that have distorted your self-image. And like science, you have the right to recalibrate, not to deny the past, but to see yourself more clearly. Neptune continues to turn. The winds continue to blow. Triton continues its retrograde orbit. And somewhere between turbulence and silence, there is a beauty that does not require brilliance. As your breathing slows, imagine yourself observing Neptune from afar, without filter, without prejudice, simply watching. Within that observation, there is a strange peace, because you begin to realize truth is not a fixed image, it is a journey. And perhaps, like Neptune, you too are slowly revealing truer colors as you learn to see in new light. After passing through the not quite blue blues of Neptune, after realizing that truth unfolds layer by layer, like light through different wavelengths, we return a little closer. Close enough that each night you can see it with your own eyes. Thy moon, no longer merely a poetic symbol, no longer only a gentle image suspended in the night sky. The moon is now a landscape, measured, drilled, and analyzed. And in that journey, the Chandrayaan-3 mission landed at the lunar South Pole, a place no human mission had ever touched before. There is something almost sacred about the moon's South Pole. Deep craters locked in permanent shadow where sunlight has never reached. Temperatures there fall low enough to freeze water molecules for billions of years. In that darkness, frozen water may exist. And water, as we know, is not merely a molecule. It is the condition of life, of lasting presence. Chandrayaan-3 did not carry human footsteps. It carried small instruments measuring surface temperature, analyzing chemical composition, searching for sulfur, studying seismic activity. Sulfur, an element that seems ordinary, yet its presence tells us that the moon's surface is not a uniform gray dust. It has history, motion, a complex geological past. And when sensors measured temperatures at the polar region, they detected vast differences between sunlit areas and those in shadow. That harshness is not a rejection. It is a reminder that if humanity wishes to remain here, we must learn to adapt. Perhaps for the first time in history, humanity looks at the moon not merely as a temporary destination, but as a possible place of habitation. Carl Sagan once wrote in Cosmos Somewhere, "Something incredible is waiting to be known." Perhaps that incredible does not lie in an alien civilization. Perhaps it lies in our own capacity to build a base upon a world without air, without oceans, without natural life. But before speaking of the future, let us pause. Imagine yourself standing at the moon's south pole. Before you stretches a gently curved horizon, an utterly black sky, no atmosphere to soften the light. Earth hangs in the distance, blue and fragile. There you are, no longer at home. Yet you are not entirely a stranger. The moon has always been Earth's companion. It regulates the tides, stabilizes Earth's axial tilt, contributes to the conditions that allowed life to flourish. In some sense, it helped life grow, and now we return to it. Nietzsche once wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." Thus spoke Zarathustra. Perhaps building a base on the moon is a kind of dancing star. From the chaos of engineering, finance, politics, and survival challenges, humanity attempts to give birth to a new order. Yet deeper still lies a quiet question. Why do we want to remain on the moon? Is it for resources? Is it for a strategic stepping stone toward Mars? Or is it something ancient within the human psyche? A longing to leave our cradle in the human condition. Hannah Arendt wrote, "Earth is the very quintessence of the human condition." Her words make us pause. If Earth is the quintessence of the human condition, then does leaving it change our nature? Perhaps the answer does not lie in leaving or staying, but in what we choose to carry with us. If we carry greed, division, old conflicts, then whether on the moon or Mars, we will repeat our history. But if we who carry humility, cooperation, and awareness that we live upon a fragile planet, then the moon may become a symbol of maturity. Chandrayaan-3 is not merely the achievement of a single nation. It signals that space exploration is no longer the domain of only a few superpowers. Humanity is becoming multipolar in space. Many cultures, many languages, many perspectives participate in a shared dream. And perhaps that is what is truly hopeful. Seismic studies on the moon help us understand its inner structure. Subtle vibrations Moonquakes reveal that even a world that seems motionless possesses its own pulse. So it is within our inner life. The surface may appear still, yet deep inside small tremors persist. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. The moon changes not quickly, not loudly, but over millions of years. And if we set foot there, we too will change." As you listen to the story of Chandrayaan-3, in this quiet night, let your mind imagine a small base at the South Pole. Metal modules, solar panels, astronauts moving slowly in protective suits. There is no sound, only the rhythm of a heartbeat inside a helmet. And in the distance, Earth floats, blue, vibrant, fragile. Perhaps that distance will teach us to love our planet more deeply. Perhaps building a home on the moon is not about abandoning Earth, but about learning to cherish it. Within the permanent darkness of the polar craters where water may have rested for billions of years, there is a gentle reminder: life is fragile, but human longing is persistent. And as your breathing slows, as you drift towards sleep, imagine that somewhere on the moon, a small instrument continues to send data back to Earth, not loudly, not hurriedly, simply fulfilling its purpose. Like your heart quietly beating in the night, between two worlds, Earth and Moon, lies a silent expanse. And within that expanse, humanity is learning to walk more slowly, more consciously. Perhaps our future does not lie in conquest, but in learning how to live wherever we may be. And the moon in its soft silver light continues to wait. From the moon, where humanity began to dream of staying, we lift our gaze farther still, farther than Mars, farther than Neptune, beyond the boundaries of our solar system. There, about 600 light years away, exists a planet named Kepler 22b. It is not a second Earth, and yet it has been called one. When the Kepler Space Telescope discovered Kepler 22b in 2011, what drew scientific attention was not only its size, slightly larger than Earth, but its position. It orbits within what is called the habitable zone. The habitable zone, a concept that sounds simple, yet within it lies a delicate set of conditions. A distance just right from its star for water to exist in liquid form. Not so hot that it evaporates into vapor. Not so cold that it freezes forever. Liquid water. We often take water for granted, but in the vast universe, liquid water is a subtle balance. It requires the right temperature, the right pressure, an atmosphere thick enough to retain warmth, but not so thick as to trigger extreme greenhouse effects. Kepler 22b orbits a star similar to our Sun. Its light may be gentle enough to warm a planetary surface without scorching it, but we do not yet know whether Kepler 22b has oceans. We do not know whether it possesses a thick or thin atmosphere. We do not know whether It is a solid rocky world, or a water world, covered in deep global seas. The James Webb Space Telescope is now opening the possibility of analyzing the atmospheres of distant exoplanets. When a planet passes in front of its starlight, filters through its atmosphere, and leaves behind chemical traces, oxygen, methane, carbon dioxide. These molecules may tell us something about the potential for life. Yet, beneath all these measurements and spectra lies a profoundly human question. Why do we always search for an Earth 2.0? Is it because we wish to escape a wounded Earth, or because we long to know that life is not a solitary accident? Henry David Thoreau once wrote, "In Walden heaven is under our feet as well as over our heads." His words are gentle, yet profound. As we search for heaven on distant planets, perhaps we forget that the conditions for life already exist beneath our own feet. The habitable zone in the cosmos requires physical conditions. But what about the habitable zone within the soul? Perhaps it too requires liquid watery motions that flow not frozen, an atmosphere protection thick enough to keep warmth in, but not so suffocating as to trap us. Moderate light relationships and meanings, neither too harsh nor too cold. Kepler 22b has become a symbol of hope, not because we know it harbors life, but because it reminds us that suitable conditions may exist in places we have never reached. Albert Camus wrote, "In the myth of Sisyphus, in the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer." Perhaps in the cold winter of space somewhere, there exists an invincible summer, a planet with warm oceans orbiting its star. Yet it is worth reflecting we search for life based on our own template, liquid water, carbon, familiar chemistry. What if life exists in entirely different forms? Perhaps the concept of the habitable zone is not a fixed boundary. It may be a far broader spectrum than our current imagination allows. And just as our perception of Neptune has changed over time, perhaps one day our definition of life will expand as well. Soren Kierkegaard wrote, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." We understand life on Earth by looking back at its history. But in searching for Kepler 22b, we live forward, asking questions about possibilities we have never experienced. There is a beautiful humility in that journey. James Webb does not hurry. It observes one planet at a time. It analyzes each faint absorption line. For years, for decades, we wait patiently. That patience is a lesson. In an age of speed and instant feedback, the search for a faint signal from a world 600 light years away teaches us another rhythm, the rhythm of the universe, slow, vast, unhurried in its answers. In this quiet night, as you listen about Kepler 22b, imagine a distant ocean beneath the sky of another star, the light. There may be warmer or paler, the clouds thicker, the sky tinted in unfamiliar hues. But if there is liquid water there, if there is a stable atmosphere, If there is sufficient energy, then perhaps somewhere in that expanse, life may have begun. And if life can take root in many places, then your existence is not an absolute solitude. Carl Sagan once wrote in Cosmos, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." If Kepler 22b harbors life, perhaps there are beings there gazing at their own sky, asking the same question. Yet, even if Kepler 22b is only a cold, rocky world, it still carries profound meaning. It reminds us that the universe is wider than we once imagined, and that possibility does not end at familiar boundaries. As your breathing slows, let this thought drift gently through you. Perhaps the habitable zone is not only a distance in space, it is a state of balance within the soul, a place where you are not overheated by anxiety, not frozen by indifference, where emotions flow like liquid water, where there is just enough light for you to see yourself clearly. Kepler 22b may be far away, but its lesson is very near. In the vast universe, life is a fragile equilibrium, and it is precisely that fragility that makes it precious. Let your awareness drift gently like a planet orbiting its star, unhurried, unstrained, simply existing within your own habitable zone, between the deep night and the distant stars. After we look toward distant worlds, like Kepler 22b, where the hope for life remains only faint spectral traces in starlight, we turn a little closer, no longer hundreds of light years away, only a few months of travel with current technology. Mars, the red planet, has haunted human imagination for centuries. From the imagined canals of the 19th century to science fiction dreams of cities beneath glass domes, Mars has always been a screen onto which we project our hopes and our fears. Yet today, Mars is no longer merely a symbol. It is the subject of serious study. Its surface is not simply a monotonous red desert. There are strange formations known as brain terrain, undulating like the folds of a mind. There are dried riverbeds, plains once carved by flowing water minerals that form only in wet environments. Mars once had water, not glittering blue oceans like Earth's, but enough to etch enduring marks upon its surface across billions of years. And when the InSight lander placed its seismometer onto Martian soil, it recorded Marsquake's subtle tremors within the planet's interior. This tells us that Mars is not entirely dead. Within it, there are still quiet movements. Like much within our inner life, the surface may appear barren, yet deep below, something still stirs. The MOXIE experiment aboard Perseverance accomplished something that seemed small, yet carried immense meaning, producing oxygen from carbon dioxide in the Martian atmosphere. A few grams of oxygen, modest in scale, yet proof that humanity can create its own breath on another world. Breath, something we forget because it is so natural on Earth. But on Mars, every breath would be the result of technology, calculation, and will. When we speak of colonizing Mars, the question is not only whether we can, it is also whether we should. Carl Sagan once cautioned in Pale Blue Dot, it has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. Mars is a lesson in humility. Its distance, cosmic radiation, severe temperatures, dust storms lasting for months, all remind us that the universe was not designed for human comfort. And if we choose to live there, we will live beneath domes within closed systems in complete dependence on engineering. Hannah Arendt wrote in The Human Condition, "The Earth is the very quintessence of the human condition." If Earth is the quintessence of our condition, how would Mars alter it? Would we remain human as we have known ourselves, or become a different version adapted to a sky without breathable air, to ground without oceans? The matter is not only scientific, it is political and financial. Who will own Mars? Which nation? Which corporation? Or will it belong to all humanity? And deeper still lies the ethical question. If Mars once hosted microbial life, or if such life remains hidden beneath its soil, do we have the right to alter that ecosystem? Nietzsche wrote in Beyond Good and Evil, "Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster." As humanity steps beyond Earth with a desire to expand, we must ask ourselves whether we seek knowledge or merely territory. Mars reflects our history. Explorations on Earth once began with curiosity, yet they did not always end in peace. So, perhaps Mars offers a chance to do differently. Perhaps, for the first time, humanity may learn to cooperate rather than compete, to place shared interest above private ambition. And yet, it may also become simply another chapter of an old story. Albert Camus wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart." Perhaps the journey to Mars rockets, leaving their launch pads, modules, descending rovers, rolling across red plains, is already enough to stir the human heart. Not because Mars promises paradise, but because it demands courage. In this quiet night, as you listen to the story of Mars, imagine a small base beneath a transparent dome. Outside stretches a red desert to the horizon. The sky is a pale orange. Earth appears as a distant point of light. There every drop of water is precious. Every breath is manufactured. Every step is slow and careful. Perhaps living on Mars would teach us more deeply about the fragility of life. And perhaps that understanding would lead us to love Earth more profoundly. Mars was once wet. Now it is barren. A quiet reminder that climate, oceans, and atmosphere can all change over time. When we think of leaving Earth for Mars, we should also think of protecting the home we already have. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "What we do now echoes in eternity." The decisions we make today about energy, about the environment, about how we treat one another may echo not only on Earth, but someday on Mars as well. And as your breathing slows, as the image of the red desert fades into the gentle darkness of sleep, let one soft thought remain perhaps. The journey to Mars is not about abandoning Earth. Perhaps it is about understanding that life on any planet is a fragile miracle. And before we build domes on Mars, perhaps what matters more is learning to live fully beneath the blue sky we already know. Mars is waiting, but tonight you may rest. Between two worlds, red and blue, there is a quiet expanse. And within that expanse, humanity is learning to walk more slowly, more consciously among the stars. After we stand upon the red surface of Mars in imagination, after we reflect on the possibility that humanity might one day build domes beneath a sky of thin air, the story widens once more, far beyond planets, far beyond star systems, into the very hearts of stars themselves. There is a simple, yet profound truth. Every atom in your body was once born within a star. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the carbon in every cell, they were forged in the searing cores of massive stars, and when those stars reached the end of their lives, they did not quietly fade. They exploded. A supernova, a stellar explosion, can outshine an entire galaxy for a brief moment. Enormous energy is released. Shock waves ripple outward, and in that process, heavy elements are formed and scattered into space. Carl Sagan once wrote in Cosmos, "The nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies were made in the interiors of collapsing stars. We are made of star stuff." Those words are not poetic embellishment. They are physical truth. The death of a star becomes the condition for our life. In the universe, death is not erasure. It is a stage of transformation. When a massive star exhausts its nuclear fuel, its core collapses under its own gravity. In an instant, pressure and temperature surge. A chain reaction ignites. Light and energy burst forth. And sometimes, if conditions are extreme enough, that explosion is accompanied by something even more violent, a gamma ray burst. In 2022, astronomers recorded a GRB known as the brightest of all time. In just a few brief seconds, it released energy equivalent to billions of years of our sun's radiance. A beam of gamma rays crossed space, traveling billions of light years before reaching our instruments. That may make us feel small, yet it also fills us with awe. The universe is not entirely silent. It has moments of fierce eruption, immense movements unseen by the naked eye. And amid those movements, there is a star closer to us, Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse, the red supergiant, at the shoulder of Orion, can be seen with the unaided eye on winter nights. In 2019, it dimmed in an unusual way. Headlines stirred, was it about to explode? But patient scientific analysis revealed that the dimming was caused by dust and the star's natural cycle of variability. Betelgeuse is not about to go supernova. It may take tens of thousands of years. That episode reminds us of something familiar in life. Not every disturbance signals an ending. Some changes are simply phases. Heraclitus once said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man." Stars are like that too. They are constantly changing. Their light shifts. Their temperature shifts. Yet not every change is collapse. And when we look even farther beyond individual stars, we encounter the larger architecture of the cosmos. Dark energy remains a mystery. We do not see it directly. Yet through observation, we know that the universe is expanding at an accelerating rate. An invisible force draws galaxies farther apart. The universe does not merely exist. It is expanding. There is something almost meditative in that idea. A cosmos breathing on a vast scale. Inhaling, galaxies form. Exhaling, they drift apart. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Everything is interwoven, and the web is holy." Stellar explosions, gamma rays, dark energy, cosmic structure, all are woven into a vast network we have only begun to understand. On this quiet night, as you listen, about supernovae and gamma ray bursts, their intensity may seem at odds with the gentleness of sleep. But if you look more deeply, you may see something else. Even the most violent explosions are part of a greater order. Without supernovae, there would be no iron in your blood. Without stellar collapse, there would be no rocky planets. Without transformation, there would be no life. Perhaps the lesson here is not to fear death, but to understand that in the universe, endings and beginnings travel together. Albert Camus once wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "Should I kill myself or have a cup of coffee?" A question both stark and simple. It places death and continuation within the same breath. So it is in the cosmos collapse and rebirth coexist. Betelgeuse may explode one day, but not today, and not within your lifetime. There is a strange peace in that thought. The universe moves on timescales of millions of years. Our worries, though irreal and deep, are small ripples within that vast ocean. As your breathing slows, imagine a red supergiant shining in the night sky. It may have existed millions of years before you were born. It may endure thousands of years after you are gone. Yet, in this moment, its light touches your eyes. Amid stellar explosions, gamma rays, and the expansion of the universe, there is something very simple. You are here, formed from stardust, consciousness through which the universe becomes aware of itself. And as Sagan once wrote, we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. In the stillness of night, between stars that may one day explode, and galaxies drifting ever farther apart, you may rest. For however vast and fierce the universe may be, it is the place that gave rise to you. And in this slow rhythm of breath, beneath the distant light of stars that live and die, you can feel a peace that is small yet deeply real. After the violent explosion of stars, after the light of gamma-ray bursts has traveled billions of light years to touch our instruments, the story suddenly grows quieter. Not an explosion, not a dying star, but something that has never been seen. Planet 9, a planet no one has photographed, no one has directly observed, and yet it may exist. At the distant edge of the solar system beyond Neptune, there lies a cold and shadowed region known as the Kuiper Belt. Small icy bodies drift silently around the sun at immense distances. And when astronomers studied the orbits of certain objects in that region, they noticed something unusual. The orbits did not appear random. They seemed to be subtly clustered, as if drawn in a common direction, an invisible gravitational pull. No known planet could fully explain that deviation. And so the hypothesis of a ninth planet, several times more massive than Earth, orbiting the Sun on a path that may take tens of thousands of years to complete, was proposed. A planet unseen yet inferred from its influence. There is something deeply meditative in that idea. We often believe that only what we see is real, but Planet 9 reminds us that some things are present through their effects, not their image. Isaac Newton once said, "I frame no hypotheses," and yet science advances precisely through hypotheses, ideas not yet confirmed, but reasonable enough to pursue. Planet 9 is not a declaration. It is an open question, and in that openness there is a quiet beauty. Because the search for Planet 9 is not a noisy race. It is patience. Telescopes sweep across the deep darkness. Data is examined. Mathematical models are refined. There are no fireworks, no brilliant moment of revelation, only persistence. Perhaps inner life is similar. There may be planets within your own mind, beliefs, memories, fears that you do not see directly, yet you notice them through the orbit of your emotions. Why do you react in a certain way? Why does a small situation evoke such a powerful feeling? Perhaps somewhere deep within, a memory's Planet 9 quietly shapes the motion. Carl Jung wrote in Psychology and Religion, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Planet 9 in the cosmos becomes a perfect metaphor for the unconscious mind. We do not see it, but we witness its influence. And instead of fearing the unknown, science chooses to observe more carefully. It does not rush to confirm. It does not rush to deny. It continues searching. The hypothesis of Planet 9 remains open. It may exist. Or perhaps those unusual orbital patterns will one day be explained differently. Science is willing to adjust. That flexibility is a precious lesson. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." Planet 9 reminds us that truth does not always reveal itself at once. It may remain hidden in darkness, waiting for subtler instruments and more precise questions. And when we widen our perspective, we may realize that not knowing is not shameful. It is the beginning of understanding. On this quiet night, as you listen about a planet never seen, let the thought drift through you like a faint, distant star. There may be things in your own life that have not yet been named, not yet spoken, not yet clearly seen. Yet that does not mean they are not real. Albert Einstein once said, "The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. Planet 9 exists first as a question, and that question, even without an answer, enriches the map of our solar system. Perhaps it moves very slowly at a distance hundreds of times farther than Earth is from the Sun. 1 year on such a world might last tens of thousands of Earth years. Time there does not resemble our own. And that too reminds us that not every answer must arrive immediately. Some mysteries may accompany us for a lifetime without ever being fully resolved. Heraclitus said nature loves to hide. Nature, and perhaps the human soul, as well delights in concealment. Yet that concealment is not meant to deceive. It is meant to invite. As your breathing slows, imagine the farthest edge of the solar system. The sun's brilliance has faded. Only cold darkness remains. And within that darkness, perhaps a giant planet turns silently unseen by human eyes. It does not require witnesses. It does not require confirmation. It exists in its own way. And perhaps that is the quiet beauty of Planet 9. It teaches us that not everything valuable must be visible. Not every influence must be acknowledged. Sometimes silent presence is enough to shape an orbit. In that vast expanse among subtle deviations and open hypotheses, there is a strange and gentle peace. Because we realize the universe still holds mysteries, and that means we still have reason to wonder. And as you drift toward sleep, let the thought of Planet 9 move outward like its distant orbit, slow, spacious, unhurried. For not every planet must be seen in order to exist. And not every question needs its answer tonight. After we have listened to the story of an unseen world like Planet 9, of subtle orbital shift, hinting at the silent presence of something invisible, the narrative now turns to a world that was once seen yet not fully understood. Pluto. Perhaps you remember the year 2006 when Pluto was demoted from the list of official planets. It was no longer the 9th planet. It became a dwarf planet. For many, it felt like a symbolic loss. Pluto, small, distant, seemed to be removed from the circle of honor. But the universe does not concern itself with our titles. And in 2015, when the New Horizons spacecraft flew past Pluto, the images it sent back transformed humanity's understanding. Pluto was not a dead block of ice. It possesses ice mountains rising as high as 3,000 meters, composed of water ice as hard as rock. It holds a vast heart-shaped plain, Sputnik Planitia, covered in frozen nitrogen. And perhaps most striking, its surface is not saturated with impact craters like an ancient frozen world. That suggests geological youth. There is movement. There is renewal. There is history. And perhaps deep beneath its icy crust, there exists a subsurface ocean. An ocean in darkness, nearly 6 billion kilometers from the sun. Carl Sagan once wrote in Cosmos, "Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known." Pluto was once that unknown. And when we truly approached it, we discovered not a faint dot, but a complex world. There is something profoundly human in that. How many times in life have we debated something, a person, a dream, even ourselves, simply because we observed it from a distance? Pluto was deemed too small to be called a planet, yet smallness does not equal simplicity. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche wrote, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." Pluto may be small, but within it there is still motion. Its nitrogen plains appear to flow slowly like a glacial river of cold light. The enormous cellular patterns across Sputnik Planitia suggest convection, nitrogen ice warming and cooling, circulating in cycles, slow, silent, yet moving. Perhaps the inner life of a human being is the same. On the surface, you may seem calm, but deep within currents of thought, memory and feeling continue to shift. Sometimes slowly, sometimes almost imperceptibly. New Horizons, the name itself, is not merely that of a spacecraft. It is a metaphor. New horizons do not always lie in distant unknowns. Sometimes they are found in looking again at what we thought we already understood. Pluto once appeared as a blurred speck of light. But when New Horizons drew near, details emerged. Terrain, cliffs, valleys, a thin haze in its atmosphere. Albert Einstein once said, "The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing." Curiosity carried New Horizons to Pluto after nearly a decade of travel. There was no haste, no instant reward, only patience. And the result was not a lifeless ice ball, but a world with its own character. Pluto also belongs to the Kuiper Belt, the outer region of the solar system, populated by thousands of icy bodies. It is not alone. It is part of a larger structure. That reminds us that even what lies at the edge, what we once considered an exception, has its context. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Everything is interwoven, and the web is holy." Pluto is not a mistake within the planetary system. It is a piece within the greater tapestry of the solar system, and Perhaps your life is similar. The parts you once thought marginal imperfections, old wounds, may in fact belong to the wholeness of your structure. The shifting perception of Pluto also demonstrates that science is not a fixed list of truths. It is a process. When new data arrives, models adjust. Pluto's reclassification in 2006 was not an insult. It was an attempt to clarify definitions. And New Horizons revealing Pluto's dynamism was not a contradiction. It was enrichment. Soren Kierkegaard wrote, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." We once understood Pluto in a certain way. Only later, with new information, did we perceive its depth. On this quiet night, as you listen about Pluto, imagine yourself floating above its vast nitrogen plains. The sky is black. The sun appears only as a bright star. The temperature is so low that breath, if there were any, would freeze instantly. Yet beneath that frozen crust, there may be an ocean, a hidden ocean. Perhaps you have oceans like that within yourself. Depths not visible to others, thoughts unspoken, dreams unnamed. Pluto offers a gentle lesson. Do not rush to conclude about a world or a person simply because you have seen it from afar. Some movements reveal themselves only when we come closer. Some oceans are discovered only through patience, and in this slow unfolding of the story as you drift towards sleep, let the image of Pluto, small yet vibrant, move softly through your mind. No longer merely the ninth planet, no longer a symbol of exclusion, but a reminder that understanding can always be renewed. And like Pluto, perhaps you do not need to be larger, louder, or more recognized to possess value. You only need to be yourself, a small yet profound world, turning quietly in the vast space of existence. After we leave Pluto, that small world, holding a silent ocean, within the journey drifts farther still toward one of the most beautiful spectacles in our solar system, Saturn. If you have ever looked through a telescope, you remember the image, a pale golden planet encircled by delicate rings like music written in light. Yet Saturn is not only beauty. At its North Pole exists something strange, a vast hexagon larger than Earth itself, a perfect geometric form shaped by violent atmospheric currents spinning at hundreds of meters per second. Within atmospheric chaos, order emerges. It makes us pause. Perhaps within the swirling turbulence of our own lives, invisible geometries are quietly taking shape. Heraclitus once said, "Out of chaos comes order." Saturn's hexagon is a reminder that the universe does not move by randomness alone. Under certain conditions, structure arises from disorder. And yet those luminous rings, Saturn's emblem, will not endure forever. Data from Cassini revealed that they are slowly raining down upon the planet. Particles of ice and dust are drawn inward by gravity, dissolving into the atmosphere. Saturn is gradually losing its crown. No tragedy, no sound, only a slow process unfolding over millions of years. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "In meditation's time is a sort of river of passing events, and strong is its current. Saturn's rings flow within that river. They are not eternal." And then we turn toward Titan, Saturn's largest moon. Titan has lakes and seas, but not of water, of methane and ethane. There is methane rain, methane clouds, a hydrological cycle yet formed of different chemistry. If you stood on Titan, the sky would appear hazy orange. Sunlight would filter faintly through a thick atmosphere. At minus 179 degrees Celsius, liquid methane would flow across the surface like rivers. Life there, if it exists, would resemble nothing we know. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "The cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the universe to know itself." If life can take root within those cold methane lakes, then the universe may know itself, not only through liquid water and familiar carbon pathways, but through other forms entirely. And then there is Enceladus, a small bright moon that once seemed insignificant. Yet Cassini discovered the plumes of icy water erupting from its South Pole jets, rising hundreds of kilometers into space. Beneath its thick crust of ice lies a salty ocean. Within those ejected ice grains, scientists detected organic molecules and molecular hydrogen hints that hydrothermal reactions may occur at the ocean floor. On Earth, around hydrothermal vents, deep beneath the sea, life thrives without sunlight. It draws energy from chemistry. Enceladus suggests something similar may occur in that distant darkness. Soren Kierkegaard once wrote, "Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced." Perhaps life in the cosmos is the same, not merely an equation to solve, but a possibility to explore with patience and humility. Saturn, Titan, Enceladus. 3 names, 3 worlds, 3 distinct modes of existence. A giant planet with a stable hexagon amid storms. A moon with methane lakes beneath an amber sky. A small moon venting an ocean into space. They stretch the meaning of the habitable zone. Perhaps life does not require gentle sunlight and blue oceans as we once assumed. Perhaps it requires darkness and internal warmth. Perhaps in the hidden depths of Enceladus, tiny organisms transform chemical energy into persistence. The thought is not loud. It is gentle, because it suggests that life, if it exists, may be more resilient than we imagine. Albert Camus wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "In the depth of winter, I finally learned that within me there lay an invincible summer. Perhaps beneath Enceladus's frozen shell, there too lies such an invincible summer, a quiet energy sustaining life." On this quiet night, as you listen about Saturn and its moons, imagine yourself drifting through the rings. Ice particles shimmer like diamond dust in faint light. In the distance, Titan turns slowly beneath its orange sky, and Enceladus quietly sends plumes of water into the void. There is no sound, only motion. The universe does not need to be loud to be wondrous. And if life can endure within a hidden ocean, beneath a distant moon, then your own life with its worries, hopes, and thoughts is part of that same chain of possibility. You are made of stardust. You live upon a planet orbiting an ordinary star in an ordinary galaxy, and you possess the capacity to imagine oceans hidden beneath the ice of Enceladus. That alone is extraordinary. As your breathing slows, let the image of Saturn drift softly through your mind. Rings slowly fading yet radiant in this moment. Small moons quiet yet filled with potential. The universe is never still, yet within its change there is rhythm. And tonight, you may rest within that rhythm, between a steady hexagon, between silent methane lakes, and between a hidden ocean waiting to be discovered. And now, after we have traveled through distant worlds from Proxima Centauri, B to Enceladus, from Saturn's hexagon, to the rings that are slowly raining down, this journey begins to slow. Not because we have found the answers, but because we realize that the questions themselves are what make us human. The entire story we have followed, whether about planets, telescopes, or antimatter engines, revolves around a very ancient longing. Are we alone? When an astronomer studies the spectrum of an exoplanet's atmosphere, they may be searching for oxygen or methane, but more deeply, they are listening for an echo, a sign that somewhere another intelligence is also looking up at the sky. Carl Sagan wrote in Cosmos, "For small creatures such as we, the vastness is bearable only through love." Perhaps it is love of understanding, love of discovery, that allows us to endure the immensity of the universe. Without that love, the distance between stars is only a number. Without that love, Neptune is merely a cold sphere of gas. Without that love, Saturn is only a planet whose rings are fading away. But through love of knowledge, everything becomes a story. We have looked back at history from Yuri Gagarin to Apollo to Voyager, and seen that each step forward was not merely a technical achievement. It was an expression of something deeper, the longing to move beyond limits. Nietzsche wrote in "Thus spoke Zarathustra, man is something that shall be overcome." To overcome here does not mean to deny ourselves. It means not to accept confinement. From correcting the true color of Neptune to setting foot on the moon, humanity has continually revised what it once believed to be certain. Science self-corrects, and perhaps the human mind must do the same. When we ask how far can we go, it is not only a question about propulsion systems or antimatter drives. It is a question about inner boundaries. How far can we go in courage? How far in patience? How far in accepting that we may be wrong? Pluto was once considered small, cold, almost insignificant. Then new horizons revealed flowing nitrogen glaciers. Saturn was once imagined as eternal, crowned with unchanging rings. Then Cassini showed us that those rings are gradually disappearing. What we believe to be permanent turns out to be only a moment in the river of time. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "Everything is in a state of flux." Perhaps humanity's future among the stars will be the same, not a sudden leap, but a slow current. One day, we may send probes to Alpha Centauri. We may detect a clear biosignature in a distant atmosphere. We may find microorganisms in the hidden ocean of Enceladus. And even if these things do not happen within our lifetime, the longing itself still has value, because the search does not only expand the outer universe, it expands the inner one. Soren Kierkegaard wrote, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." We look back at missions, failures, corrections to see how far we have come. But we must still live and explore forward. Perhaps humanity's future does not lie only among the stars. Perhaps it lies in how we face the infinite. Infinity can frighten us, but it can also humble us. As you lie still in the night, listening to stories of planets and telescopes, remember that all of this began with a simple act: looking up. A child gazes at the night sky and asks, "What is that?" From that question, an entire scientific civilization is built. And from that question, we begin to understand that we are small, but not meaningless. Albert Einstein once said, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious." Mystery is not meant to terrify us. It is meant to awaken wonder. The universe owes us no answers, but it gives us questions. And those questions keep the mind alive. In this quiet moment, you can feel it. Curiosity does not need to be loud. It does not need to shout. It only needs to exist like a small flame in the dark. From correcting the color of a distant planet to dreaming of reaching another star system, humanity's journey is a journey of awareness. We are not merely exploring space, we are exploring our own capacity. And perhaps the most healing realization of all is this: you are part of that story. You are not an audience to the universe. You are the universe wondering about itself. The cosmos is within us. Carl Sagan, Cosmos. As your breathing slows, let those questions no longer feel like a burden. You do not need the answers tonight. You do not need to solve infinity. Simply know that human curiosity, from revising Neptune's blue to dreaming of Proxima Centauri is a steady current, and you are flowing within it, among countless stars, among hidden oceans, among fading rings, not alone, just a part of a greater story continuing very slowly, very quietly in the gentle darkness of the universe.